In 2004, the Australian wool industry made a groundbreaking promise to end the painful practice of live lamb cutting, also known as mulesing, by 2010. The promise, driven by the threat of retailer boycotts and animal welfare advocates, was met with widespread approval from consumers and brands both in Australia and around the world. This commitment promised to spare millions of lambs from unimaginable suffering. However, in 2009, just before the deadline, the industry abandoned this commitment. Instead of fulfilling their promise, they chose to continue prioritizing short-term economic gains over meaningful welfare improvements. The sector's failure to act has allowed this cruelty to persist to this day. Live lamb cutting is a brutal procedure in which skin and flesh bigger than the size of your palm are sliced off merino lambs, often just 2 weeks old, typically without adequate pain relief, if any. The failure to phase out this practice by 2010 has had devastating consequences. It is estimated that over 140 million lambs have endured this painful procedure since the deadline passed, to the extent that the removed skin and flesh could fill 3 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Today, Australia remains the only country in the world that practices live lamb cutting. For many years, substantial sums of producers' and taxpayers' money have been spent searching for alternatives, all while viable solutions already existed for decades. Despite growing brand opposition, with over 300 companies committed to live lamb cut-free wool, 80% of Australian lambs still suffer. The failure of Australia's industry leaders and producers to take action is causing widespread suffering and harming Australia's global reputation. Wool producers who transitioned away from live lamb cutting by breeding fly strike-resistant sheep report better welfare outcomes, higher productivity, and access to premium wool markets, yet the broader industry remains resistant to change. There is simply no justifiable reason to continue this outdated, unethical, and unnecessary practice of live lamb cutting. Now, in 2024, after 20 years of delays and broken promises, Paws, together with the Australian Alliance for Animals and Humane Society International Australia, have published a report calling for Australian state governments and brands across the globe to commit to a definitive phase-out of live lamb cutting by 2030. The solutions are clear, and countless wool producers are living proof. The world is watching, waiting for this broken promise to be fulfilled and for this cruelty to end once and for all.